Fantasy often turns to gods to explain magic, morality, and creation. In Tolkien there is Eru Ilúvatar, in Lovecraft the Elder Gods, in D&D Mystra is magic. Gods don't just exist, they shape the rules, they define systems. This video essay explores how gods came to dominate fantasy and games, and how they influence how we play. After each segment, I will also recommend you a TTRPG to pair with, almost like wine. So let's start. First, when I talk about gods, I mean beings with the power to shape reality, create, destroy, rewrite the rules of the world. We of course didn't start with fantasy gods, we started with real ones. Before science there were stories. Ancient gods weren't just worship, they were how people made sense of what they couldn't control. Weather, death, justice. They functioned as explanation and moral guides. Religion gave the chaos of life a story, a structure. But let's skip all that and let's fast forward to around 1905, to the birth of modern fantasy. Lord Dunsany was one of the first writers to fully embrace invented gods. The Gods of Pegana reads like scriptures from an invented word. It opens with Mana Yud Sushai, a dreaming god who creates a bunch of lesser gods with amazing names. There's Kib, who governs what it is. There's Mung, the god of death. There's Sish, god of time. It's written in a fake biblical voice, full of righteousness and irony. One god has to drum eternally, or Mana Yud Sushai wakes up and destroys everything. Dunsany wasn't religious, but he believed in the power of myth. And he loved mocking blind faith, so his writings shows those beliefs. Here's a quote.
Kib said, "I am Kib. I am none other than Kib. Kib is Kib. Kib is he and no other. Believe."
It doesn't say anything. It just says Kib is Kib. It just sounds like gospel, and that's kind of the point. Dunsany's gods just kind of exist. They follow strange rules, they argue, they contradict each other. No justice, no chosen ones, it's just a mess. They don't fix things, they just make them weirder. And now, if you like this vibe, you should play Troika. H.P. Lovecraft, the creator of the Cthulhu mythos, once said of Lord Dunsany, "I can do no more than imitate him." Even though he personally didn't believe in any divine order, in his fiction, Lovecraft filled the cosmos with gods. There is Cthulhu, there is Azathoth, there is Yog-Sothoth. Name entities with cults, rituals, and deep lore. But these weren't gods you could pray to, they didn't bless the faithful, they were monsters, aliens, ancient, often insane. Lovecraft's gods don't explain the world, they tear apart the idea that it can be explained. His fiction offers no answers, no justice, no lessons, just existential dread. As N.K. Jemisin puts it,
Lovecraft's material came from his hatred and fear of the other, specifically of his fellow human beings. In order to read Lovecraft, you've got to absorb a certain amount of his hate.
That fear shapes his stories. Fear is the ultimate truth, and the gods represent his own paranoia. By the way, there's a very racist way of saying the word, and Lovecraft wasn't just a man of his time racist, he was racist. People in his own time were like, damn, this man is racist. Even people before his time would be like, damn, this man is racist. That fear and paranoia bleeds into his writing. And if you like this Lovecraftian vibe, you should play Delta Green. So we got an agnostic and a nihilist atheist so far creating gods. We are missing a believer. Enter John Ronald, also known as J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien was a devout Catholic, and his beliefs run deep through his writings. In the Silmarillion, the world begins with music. Eru Ilúvatar, the One, sings reality into being. Evil enters when Melkor, a rebellious spirit, tries to twist the song. It's very God and Lucifer vibes. Tolkien wrote, "The Lord of the Rings is for the encouragement of good morals in this real world." But he didn't include temples, priests, or worship. That was intentional. As he puts in a letter, the religious element is absorbed in the story and the symbolism. Sauron's evil isn't just about control, it's about wanting worship, wanting to be a god. The ring tempts everyone.
Don't tempt me, Frodo!
But the true heroes are the ones who resist power. Morality in Middle-earth is tied to humility, obedience and knowing your place. The past is celebrated. The Shire resists change. Elves are noble, orcs are damned. It's a world where older equals better, and trying to reshape the world, like Melkor, Sauron or Saruman, is the root of evil. It's a kind of make Middle-earth great again vibe. Not exactly, it's more like Middle-earth was great before and will never be great again because progress? Michael Moorcock, a sci-fi and fantasy writer, critiqued Tolkien in an essay called Epic Pool. He compares Tolkien's worldview to Winnie the Pooh. Nostalgic, conservative, everyone's in their place and happy to be there. In Tolkien's world, the gods already wrote the song. Morality is pre-written. You either on beat or off. Tolkien's Catholic worldviews, with its focus on hierarchy and preserving tradition, shapes the rules of the universe. And look, Lord of the Rings is still rules, it's great. My pairing, if you like Lord of the Rings, you should play The One Ring by Free League, I guess. I never played, but... The point is, when someone creates gods, they are creating meaning. Those gods often reflect the creator's beliefs about justice, morality, obedience. Those ideas get passed along and, like Tolkien say, absorb. Let me bring Game of Thrones. I like how George tells stories. Here's an interview where he talks about Tolkien's morals. Take it away, Martin.
The orcs, there are still tens, thousands of orcs left over at the end of Lord of the Rings. Did he pursue a policy of genocide toward them? Or did he reach out to try to educate the orcs and bring them into the mainstream and civilize them? We never get answers to any of these questions. We just get he rules wisely and well.
Thank you, George, but enough about storybooks, George. This is a gaming channel. Let's talk about rulebooks. Dungeons & Dragons is a great one to think about it, because the gods are very optional in D&D. They're kind of, hey, they're there if you want. And I think gods are optional because there's already a divine force in the game. It's called alignment. That's the real gods of D&D. In 1974's original edition, clerics didn't need a deity. Their power came from alignment. Law, chaos, or neutrality. Inspired by Moorcock, the one that called Lord of the Rings Epic Pool, and Paul Anderson. But good or evil, that came later when the 1977 basic set introduced the full moral axis. And then deities and demigods dropped in 1980. It gave gods stats, domains, hit points, you could serve them, fight them, or even kill them. Also was a compilation of all mythos, which was kind of weird. There was Chinese pantheons, Babylonian, Greek pantheons, sure. Anyways, there were several pantheons to choose from. But what ties all of them together? Alignment. Doesn't matter who you are, every god has a fixed moral tag. Yog-Sothoth was chaotic evil, Tyr, lawful good, Cold Woman, that's a god I guess, neutral alignment. I actually really dig this book, the art is really nice and I love games. Knowing that someone spent hours figuring out the stat blocks for Hades makes me all fuzzy inside. But the problem is, assigning alignments, that's not world building really, because that's not really how the fictional universe operates. No one thinks they're evil. Not in real life, not in fantasy. Even the most evil cultists, the most bizarre gods, they think they are restoring balance, bringing order, making a new world, serving justice, fulfilling their destiny, whatever. In real life, the worst people throughout history believed they were the good guys, and most of them believed to be doing God's work. So who is assigning these labels? Who decides that Loth, the Spider Queen, is chaotic evil? The book even says, little is known about her aims. Chaotic evil. This woman is too mysterious. So who is deciding on that is outside the game. Sorry to get too meta, but it's the game designers. It's outside of the fiction that is decided what's good and what's bad. And when you decide that this is what a whole culture is, damn. There's very little room for doubt, for growth, for new perspectives. D&D labels whole groups, gods, orcs, cultures, as evil by default. That's not really lore, that's divine decree by the creators. This is a very Tolkien way of seeing things. Gygax tried to downplay Tolkien's influence, but it's there. Before creating D&D, Gygax and Jeff Perrin created Chainmail, a miniatures rule set that included a fantasy supplement straight from Tolkien. Elves, Balrogs, Wraiths. It even used the words Hobbit and Ent until the Tolkien state threatened to sue, so they changed to Halfling. Gygax after that claimed Tolkien had little impact in D&D, but the bones of D&D, good versus evil, ancient races, moral binaries, is straight out of Middle-earth. That's why you don't need gods in D&D, because like in Lord of the Rings, the message is absorbed in the fiction, absorbed by alignment. That's the moral compass that guides the game. Gods in D&D have been all over the place throughout the editions. Second edition says that clerics need a god, but in the simplest version of AD&D, clerics serve religions that can be generally described as good or evil. I think that tells you all you need to know. This is the description for chaotic evil in 2024. A villain pursuing schemes of vengeance and havoc is probably chaotic evil. They don't even know? How is this creature a villain? Why? Vengeance of what? Also probably? All of them are like probably lawful good, probably. They really don't want to commit to it because they know alignments are very iffy. Even in retro clones like Shadowdark, gods are simplified agents of law, chaos or neutrality. But hey, not having good and evil is already better. Somehow Shadowdark gives a step forward by giving a step back. Nice. And that's my pairing. If you like D&D, play Shadowdark. And the deeper issue is the way alignments bring fantasy's worst habits. Elves are good and wise, orcs are evil, order is good, chaos is bad, is essentialism. And the problem is that it creeps into everything. Enemy types, quest lines, player choices. It creeps on predetermine who deserves to die, who is automatically right, and who gets to be called good. And that's decided by the game designer. As game designer James Mendes Hodes puts it,
if every member of a certain group is evil, if they're like inherently destructive, they're more like a force of nature. That's like saying coronavirus is evil. It's like saying like a tsunami is evil. If the choice is made for you, that's not evil as I understand it even.
Author N.K. Jemisin, in her essay The Unbearable Baggage of Orkin, she describes orcs as a stand-in for people considered less than human, created just to be slaughtered. As she puts it, orcs are the fruit of the poison vine that is human fear of others. So you are like, easy, let's remove alignments, problem solved. But it's not that simple. Here's the tricky part. If you start ripping things out of D&D, like alignments or gods that hand out morality, we can call races species we call now. Let's remove classes too, because your job doesn't define you. You make this more broad and abstract. You start to lose the things that make D&D feel like D&D. You get people screaming, "This is not my D&D." And they are not wrong. The best example is the Amazon show The Rings of Power. That show made a much more morally ambiguous world than Tolkien's, where good and evil are not so clear, good characters do bad things based on their own internal compass, and a lot of people say, that's not Tolkien, I hate it, and they're kind of right. But the people saying, this is how it should be, that's good, they're also kind of right. The problem isn't the show, it's that you cannot have both. The Rings of Power isn't Tolkien, it's a reflection of our world, not his. That doesn't mean the show is good or bad per se, it just means that it's not aligned with how Tolkien saw things. It has no Christian ideals absorbing. But it is definitely modern, and shows how we see things now, how we tell stories, how we have a more accepting society, how there is no problems with having black people be dwarfs or elves or whatever the hell people were mad about. But you still need to do a good game though, you cannot just remove things and not replace with interesting and new ideas. Something can be bad as a game and ethically correct. I think a lot of things get mixed in the middle, I feel. And I know, someone will say, but D&D is a sandbox, you can do whatever. But it's not. D&D is a pizza, and by pizza I mean a heroic fantasy simulator that deals with problems in binary results, success or failure, and where combat is the default resolution for conflict. That's your classic Napolitana from Napoli. And look, sure you can change some toppings, but all sorts of stuff but pineapple, still a pizza. And you can even remove all toppings, take out the tomato sauce, grab 2 slices of just pizza dough, but a meat patty in the middle with cheese, lettuce and ketchup and say, this is a burger. And you can't do that, nobody's stopping you, you can play however you want. I'm not here to tell you how to have fun, but the game was designed as a pizza. I don't want to spoil your D&D burger, I just think this is interesting stuff to have in mind when you are building your campaigns and writing stories. Let's take another game, Warhammer 40k. It's a very different beast. No, maybe there's 50 gods, maybe just vibes. They really take a stance in design and I respect that. Warhammer 40k is a terrible future where humanity made all the worst possible choices. Everything is awful, the emperor, a corpse king wired to a golden throne, is worshipped as a god. Thousands are sacrificed every day just to keep him online. Look at this guy. His soldiers, the Space Marines, they are not heroes, they are fanatical enforcers of this fascist regime. They exterminate entire planets in the name of purity and order. As Games Workshop once say, the Empyrean is a cautionary tale about xenophobia and authoritarianism. And there is other gods too, but they are not saviors. The Chaos gods are living disasters. And look, Warhammer is not the cleanest. The game declares itself as satire, but as Tinko will put, satire without purpose will wander in dark places. When the message gets muddy, it stops being critique and starts feeling like an endorsement of these ideas. The whole setting is building on the idea that survival justifies anything. Genocide, religious fanaticism, totalitarian rule, that's a hard line to dance on, satire or not. That's where you end up with people thinking the Space Marines are the good guys. But this is a more interesting debate than D&D, who tells you who is good and who is bad. Not having really a good guy is a cool choice from a game design perspective, especially if you are dealing with different factions. And because it's a war game, you interact in a different way with the game. It puts you in different perspectives when you align with these horrible factions. You need to study them, to understand them, how they work. You get closer to the bad guys, to their lore. It's a very different way of interacting. Instead of giving you good and evil, they give you flavors of terrible to pick. Choose the least worst, or your favorite worst, or the best worst, the least opposite of worst. You get it. Let's look at Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 1st Edition. Every character there had fate points. That's kind of the gods helping you out because they think you are special. It's baked into the system. Warhammer 40k has miracle dice and lots of ways the lore influences mechanics. Once gods are real, walking around, handing out powers, choosing favorites, killing people with a word, everything in the universe has to pass through those lenses. If gods are real and active, the game should reflect it. There should be rules for that, a full path to godhood. It should be in the rules. How do you kill a god? What does it take to become one? That should be in the manual. Godhood should be a mechanic. That's the pineapple I want on the pizza. I don't mind playing morally grey characters in games. I just like when the system is honest about what it's asking me to do, not hide behind flexibility. Shadow Dark says gold is equal to XP. Is that morally complicated? Sure. But it owns it. It tells you this is the word. You are dungeon delvers, tomb robbers. This is the logic the game runs on. And I respect it. And yeah, my pairing, if you like Warhammer 40k, you should play Morkborg. About gods. I think the problem is that fantasy keeps imagining words with gods. And gods bring so much moral baggage, they are so powerful. Why can't we imagine words with no gods? Why are fantasy games so reluctant to have godless stories? I think I know what it is, it's religion. Religion is a human thing. It's hard to have a realistic story without religion, so authors of games create religions, clerics, Black Templars, cultists, prophets. We want to add religion to things because it's a very human thing. But since it's fantasy, since it's all made up, since we are making a religion, we need a god. And since we are making a god, why not make the god real, right? Magic is real, we are in a fantasy world, so why not? I think that's where the problem comes. Unless a god is a necessity, there is no point really in adding them to a story, to your campaigns, to your games. Unless they are the reason that the story goes around, like in Lovecraft, or the reason for war, like in Warhammer, there is no point in adding gods to your games, or a divine moral system, unless they say something. One asks how the real gods are in Westeros. J.R.R. Martin replied,
How real are the gods in our world? A lot of people believe they're real. We see events happening in the real world that certain people who have a religious belief ascribe to their particular god or combination of gods, but it's not provable that it was that. It could have just been some other explanation, and that's I like that sort of ambiguity. Since it occurs in real life, I want to create that ambiguity in my fiction too. So I'm not an omniscient author. I don't tell you the way it really is. I put you in the skin of one of my characters, and it's all filtered through his own particular worldview and beliefs.
So damn, what do you want me to do with gods and alignments? There's a book called The Wizards of Earthsea. No gods, just balance. Magic is naming things about language, understanding, and revolves around the ethical and proper use of power. It's so good. If you want gods, but you're not sure, do it like Game of Thrones. Maybe they're real, maybe not. Just keep it agnostic. And if you do use them, make them central, make them flaw. Like in Princess Mononoke, the forest spirits can die. Lady Eboshi says, I'm going to show you how to kill a god. That makes gods part of the conflict. They are not all-knowing, they can be wrong, they can be corrupted, they have real emotions, just like us. Because games, even fantasy, mirror the real world. And how we play shows how we think, what we believe in. Gods in games shouldn't be a footnote, they are the first question. How we see them shapes everything else. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video essay, please hit the like, subscribe to us. Also, thank you to our patrons. We have a Patreon, they've been helping us to keep this channel going. And yeah, there will be more videos coming, and let me know in the comments what's your favorite god system. Is there a game godless that you like? I don't know many, so let me know.